Hello, ladies, gentlemen, friends beyond the binary. Welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, November 2nd, 2020, the Day of the Dead, if you are in Mexico. I don't think there's anybody in Mexico watching this video, but by chance, if there's somebody in Mexico watching this, Feliz Dia de los Muertos. I've got my, what the hell's her name again? Can it say to Cameron or something like that? I don't remember anymore. But this is like a symbol of the Day of the Dead. Hi, everybody. My name's Tristan Johnson. I'm the host of YouTube channels Step Back History and Tristan Won't Shut Up. I stream here on Mondays from 12 till 2. You probably noticed that the time shifted a little bit because of daylight savings. But from 12 to 2, I stream here, doing the Monday Discourse. Tuesday nights, I do Step Back Tonight from 7 to 9. That is going to be maintained tomorrow, even though, 9 is like when the polls start to close. I think I'm going to finish the stream at the normal time and hop over and say hello to people on...
I look forward to your streams and videos every week. Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you very much, Lugster. Much appreciated. I'm going to try and drop in on the surfs or something like that afterwards to continue the fun. And on Fridays, I do the reactor from 2 to 5, where people send me stuff and I react to the thing. I go by he, him pronouns. If you want to find my work, you can go to stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com, or you can go to you can see Tristan PJ on Twitter. If you have Amazon Prime, because you want to watch things, or you want that, free 2-day delivery, or, whatever it is that works for you, you do know that you get one free Twitch subscription every month. If you don't use it, the money just gets to stay with Amazon, and Jeff Bezos has sex with your money. So, to prevent Jeff Bezos from having sex with your money, you should help an independent Twitch creator on Twitch. If you choose Step Back History, that's me, then you're helping. You are helping good things happen in this world. You're helping rent get paid and cats get fed and all those kinds of things. And what else should I say? Yes, my latest video on Step Back came out last week. It is about sort of the nature of history and the work that historians do and how the right damages that, specifically with Dinesh D'Souza as an example. So that's a good one. And the latest Step Back History video, or the latest Tristan Won't Shut Up video, is about school, and my school sucks. And the next one for that is going to be about innovation and why socialism is a better thing for fostering innovation and such. So that's going to be that's my next thing. For that, I should be filming that on Tuesday. I was going to film it yesterday, but I got a headache. So I'll be filming that on Tuesday. So, inshallah, it'll be out by Thursday. And the next Step Back video is on it's on how the militia movement was born, and sort of tells a story about how Vietnam veterans turned into this group of people starting a paramilitary militia, white supremacist militia movement in the United States, with flashpoints like a specific moment in 1981 that involved Vietnamese refugees in Texas. But you'll be hearing more about that. Everything goes according to plan. That video might be out by November 11th. That's the very tentative date I'm working from right now. And then, and so those are all the things. So that is all of my my starts. That's everything I needed to get out of the way, I think. So without further ado, let's get me on the horn. Ugh.
Hello.
Hello, you made it.
I have made it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Well, of course you can hear me. You responded to me. God, I'm having a good day today. Hello.
You should tell everyone on the internet where your stuff comes from.
That's a very good question. My stuff comes from the endless consumption of Red Bull, and then I post it on youtube.com/c/Mia Mulder, where you can watch all of my videos. And they're pretty good. You can also watch my endless rants on twitter.com/potatopolitics. Or if you have the extra dosh to spare, you can also watch my content on watchnebula.com/Mia Mulder, because that gives me money.
Damn. Okay, so two things. One, you recently produced. You recently made a video about Machiavelli.
Yes, I have made a video about Machiavelli.
And why voting is both good and bad.
Yeah. I wanted to make a sort of like you should go vote type of video that everyone's making these days because of the American election, but I also wanted it to like say something. Because a lot of them, in my opinion, not to throw shade, a lot of people who have made like vote videos are like, okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mine is very loosely a vote video, but not really, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's about something else that just happens to have a message about like voting, and I think that's way more productive. Yeah.
Plus,
I liked it. I liked my video.
Thank you, and you did a good job. It was a good video too. Okay, so the other thing is, I realized, I think, unless you're just doing some sort of absurdist humor, I think I found out where your Twitter handle comes from.
Do you?
I was listening to Three Arrows' podcast, where he's talking about the dissolution of Imperial Germany, and had a little discussion about what he called potato politics, which is like the politics of like getting the food you need to eat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that where that comes from, or was it just some sort of joke?
It sort of is. It is partially based on like that is holy shit. That's like the original meaning that's lost its meaning, because that is the original source of my Twitter handle. But then it kind of disappeared, and I just wanted to make like I wanted to keep the name because I like the name, but then I had some sort of idea back in like 2014 or whatever that I was going to do like a bunch of blogs, and there were going to be different blogs. So there were going to be like potato politics, where I talk about politics, and there were going to be like potato movies, where I talk about movies and shit like that. So I would sort of like split it up, but then potato politics just stuck. But that is the original. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, what's interesting
but
is,
I mean,
it's a podcast worth listening to. It's called The Iron Dice.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity yet, but it seems very good.
I find it interesting. This is a personal observation, and there's no criticism of Dan himself. But like this is a thing that always comes up when I hear this story, and it's, I think, especially applicable in our day and age, which is that every time you talk about why Germany lost the war and like what made Germany basically eventually implode and all of that stuff happen, that the status of boots on the ground and the economy and stuff like that always comes up. But what never comes up is the whole Spanish influenza pandemic.
Yeah.
It's like, is it like, I don't know why, but like conventional narratives of World War I never mention that like it ended in the middle of one of the deadliest pandemics in human history that had already killed more people than the entire war.
Yes, several times over too. But I think that was a big part. I mean, that just shows how effective propaganda is, right? Because all of the warring nations decided to be like, we're not going to talk about it because we don't want to fuck up morale. We're just going to pretend it doesn't exist, and hopefully it'll go away. Whereas Spain, as a neutral country, could report on it, and that's why it's called the Spanish flu. But I'm guessing that's like a big part of why propaganda was so successful, because no one wanted to talk about it in the context of the war.
And yet,
So
you would think that it would probably have played a pretty big role in like the war machines falling apart in 1918, but
you'd think.
especially because, like, you know, as we know, those trenches were not exactly the most sanitary places in the world, so I could imagine shit spread pretty fast.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, it's just the thing that
Yeah.
came to mind when I was hearing it, that I was like, oh, I really would like to hear how the pandemic affected Germany's collapse.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that too. I have no idea how it would how it actually would. I feel like that's something that I should have read about, but I don't think it's part of what's it called? I don't think it's really part of the sort of canon of academic research when it comes to the First World War. I think
not a lot
it's
of
sort
work.
of
Oh, sorry.
no. Keep going.
Well, it's just like not a lot of work had been done on the pandemic of 1918, 1919 until what's it called? Until the swine flu or bird flu outbreak that happened in like 2009, and that sort of brought renewed interest in the topic.
Yes, suddenly diseases and pandemics became a thing people talked about again. And then we promptly forgot about it for a few years until now.
Yeah. I just always find it so, like, because like I made a video on the 1918 Spanish flu back in 2015, so that the Great War people would put it on their Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and it was weird that like people were like, "What is this?" No, it's like, because like, you know,
What?
it's a very Tristan thing to say. Like World War I ended because of a pandemic, and no matter what us weird humans thought about political revolutions and economic breakdown, that in the end, it was people who were sick.
much like the War of the Worlds, it was the humble virus that brought down the giant war machines.
So let's see what's going on. Oh yeah, and also it is 1 degrees outside, and we have 1.5 centimeters of snow. So November's been going great so far.
Great.
You know how like all the stores transition to Christmas right after Halloween's over? Maybe that doesn't happen in Europe yet.
It's hella does.
Okay.
Day after Halloween, they started transitioning in because Halloween is not that much big of a deal here. Like that transition begins like early October. Like
Okay.
I saw Christmas drinks for sale like a month ago. Like we're already deep in Christmas fever.
Yeah, so it seems like the weather here decided. It's like literally November 1st, snowfall. It's like, okay, all right,
It's
fine.
winter now. Fuck you.
Yeah. So chat's first thing coming out. Yeah, this is something that we definitely... I don't have much to say except this is terrifying. So last couple days, there's just been like, let's see, a group of people running a presidential bus off, or presidential candidate's bus off the road, and reports of blockading polling areas with cars and fun stuff, because I hear there's, the apocalypse is basically tomorrow, so...
Yeah, because it's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah. It's apocalypse
Which means
Eve.
like Wednesday morning is probably is when everything like turns to shit. I'm gonna hear about the results like early Wednesday here, so...
Yeah, it's a weird situation, and it's also one of those things where, like, the AP reported... Or no, it wasn't AP, it was Axios. Axios reported that Trump was intending on, like, basically just declaring victory Pete Buttigieg style before the votes had even been counted. And it's like, oh, that's fun. And he denies it. He did a bunch of rallies recently where he's just like, I shouldn't be here. What's it called? This election, like, he's like basically whining already about losing the election. So,
yeah, I mean, he's portraying it in the sort of sense that like, if he loses, it is because of bad votes. And I think he realizes that he can't convince anyone who doesn't already believe him about that. So right now, I guess he's just like, is he just vibing? Is he like riling up his own base about how bad everything is?
He's he's doing like the opposite of vibing. He's been like doomering. Like what's it called? He had like a rally. He's had a couple rallies now. There's that one where he like tried to like murder his own people, but that was a different thing.
When they like drove them off into like a little camp
where it was cold. Wilderness, yeah. No, this was a different situation where like he's going to these rallies and he's just like he's right now. Here's how you can tell how desperate he is. A couple days before the election, he was doing an event in, I think it was like Georgia or something, which is like, oh, you know that if he's in Georgia, things are bad. Or like during the debate, he like shouted out specifically states like Texas, and it's like, okay, if you're worried about Texas, things are going real bad. So he's like doing these like events, and he's like decidedly more doomery than he used to be. And he's just like, he keeps saying like, I shouldn't have been here. You guys should have been a write-off. I don't know why. Like, I'm here and you guys are like, it's like, oh boy, this is.
Oh, that's a good energy. I like that. I like Trump being a doomer. I don't want him to be like giddy, because that scares me.
What's more, what's more terrifying is that his followers have been like doing like straight up like political violence with like blocking polling locations and running people off the road and stuff, and like that is. And there's like 5 states that have pretty strong intelligence that there is going to be attempts at violence tomorrow, and Australia has offered a travel advisory to its people to not go to the United States, not be in the United States tomorrow. So it's like, oh boy.
Yeah, like just avoid America for a few days. Just see how it all goes out. Yeah, it's all going to shit, isn't it? And the thing is, it's not gonna even if Trump loses and like disappears from politics, it's not gonna go away, is it?
No,
because like this isn't Trump who like built this. This was around during the Tea Party, and it's just been building ever since. Like whoever comes after Trump to like lead this weird movement, it's probably gonna like just make it even worse.
Or just, you know, maybe not thinking that there's going to be a leader, but just hire stochastic violence. Like, I honestly do think that when it comes to like rampant right-wing terrorism, you might actually see an uptick if Biden wins. So,
oh yeah, I'm expecting it. I'm fully expecting all of these like these small like paramilitary militias to just go completely overboard because they don't want to accept it. Yeah. Like that almost happened under Obama, and the sort of like rise in fascism and like political violence globally, not to mention the U.S., wasn't even close to what it is today. And that did happen occasionally under Obama, like even so.
Yeah, I'm my next video is going to be on this movement and how it started.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, turns out that nobody learns the lesson that if you send a bunch of young people into a war, and then you lose the war, and you bring everybody back with a narrative that your country let you down, and then you might activate some racists, and you just gave a whole bunch of them military training.
Yeah, isn't that what's called like Foucault's boomerang, where Foucault discussed how the inverse of Foucault's boomerang. I'm sorry. Where if you don't know what Foucault's boomerang is, it's the thing where Foucault would describe how like European imperialists would like invent new methods of being imperialists and like try them out on their colonies, but then over time those methods would like take hold like in the homeland too. And so like methods that the US military has done like in Iraq and Afghanistan, for example, those are starting to be implemented in the US as well because they seem to be working. But the inverse of that is also like that the individual soldiers who do that, they also bring back their experiences. and what they've learned and what they can do. And suddenly you have a bunch of people who, as you say, are military educated and who have been taught to be super fucking racist in order to do their job as soldiers overseas.
Yeah, because really no war can happen without an extreme extent of dehumanization and drumming up racism in order to further dehumanize and otherize the enemy, so that when you come home, like, you can't just like unprogram all of that shit right away. And so yeah, you just become like, and that you come home and you have all of that just like absolutely destroyed sense of humanity. And then they also trained you how to be a marksman and how to make explosions and just all that other stuff. And it's just like, oh fuck, that's terrifying.
So it's bad. It's very bad.
Someone asked, do you think Trump is going to win? And my answer to that is right now that if all of the votes are counted, it is extremely unlikely that Trump will win. There's like the polling error that would be needed to have the election go to Trump would be humongous. The problem is that...
Even bigger than in 2016, by the way.
Yeah. Like, it's like less than 10% at this point. The problem is, when it was like 70-30 last time, the problem is that there's this growing, like, just like they've been preparing for months to contest the results of the election. And not only contesting the results of the election, but stacking the courts. And on top of that, this like rise in like fascist paramilitaries that are literally blocking polling locations and threatening people at the polls. All of those things together make me think that unless makes me think that there's going to be like a reasonably high chance that Biden's going to win the election, but Trump will be president. And it's going to be... So in this situation, I'm sort of the mind that, barring like absolute blowout for Biden, which could happen, early voting has been in absolute record numbers, which makes me think that it could possibly be the case. But if not, then we're in for months of like some real tough stuff with like, if Biden's victory is not huge, which like the thing is, it might actually be, but if it isn't, then Trump is going to try and do everything, because the Republicans are basically now ready to turn the United States into essentially like minority rule, a la like, South Africa or something like that. They're now trying to like instill like a colonial white supremacist government that rules, that instills minority rule. And now they even have their paramilitaries. It's healthy democracy, good democracy you got going there.
Very healthy democracy. I do want to clarify something about the paramilitaries though, because I saw a question somewhere talking about how, because I mentioned in my video about fascism that I didn't think that Trump had a sort of historically comparable paramilitary movement, and I still don't think he does. I think the U.S. has something that it's even worse, which is a lot of like dozens and dozens of very small paramilitary groups that are independent and have their own independent ideology that for now currently are united for Trump. They might not be eventually, and they can, but they are still super bad. The paramilitary, because some people compare like the people who rammed down or like wanted to ram down the Biden bus with like the SS, and that's not a fair comparison. I think that group is much more comparable to like one of the hundreds of small paramilitary groups that like did voter intimidation and terrorism in the name of the Nazis at the time, but wasn't necessarily officially part of the Nazi movement. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, these militaries are collectively referred to as the White Power movement, and it is an alliance of different sorts of ideologies. Like it's made up of groups like
Dominionists and shit.
Dominionists, the Ku Klux Klan, the American Nazi Party. There's other groups like sort of like the Three Percenters, and so it ranges from like, you know, like hyper libertarian survivalists who are preparing for the end of the world, all the way to like very ideologically driven, like people who would call themselves National Socialists, and like literally just want Hitler back. Like it ranges that gamut, but like all of it is opposed to civil rights and sees conflict primarily as a racial conflict, and are preparing for a race-based conflict, and that at this moment they seem to be sort of coming together to say Trump is at least like the best hope we have for this race war that they've been preparing for since the 80s.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. And they, as you say, they've been preparing for it for a long time. And like Trump isn't in charge of that movement. They just happen to go along with. They happen to have similar interests.
As an anarchist, what's your biggest critique of the anarchist movement of philosophies? Ooh. The biggest critique that comes to mind for me is that there's sort of like sort of a built-in idea in some anarchist circles that like the people in general are always like simmering and at the point of overthrowing everything if just like the right conditions come together. And that like everybody wants like that there's sort of like this assumption that anarchism is not going to need a consciousness raising program, that it's not going to like that the ideas don't need to be sold, that it's just sort of the natural impulse of people that will just spontaneously happen if the right conditions happen. This is sort of like the impetus behind like illegalists and propaganda of the deed people, that if they just like, you know, shot the right Italian kings or whatever, that like it would just lead to a revolution. And there are still anarchists who think that this is the case, and I disagree. I think that anarchism as an intellectual project needs to do way more selling than it is. It's not just like this natural instinct of people anymore. That's it. All right. So, Star Trek Discovery question.
Of course, because this is a history and Star Trek podcast.
Yes. So I just watched Discovery, and the new non-binary character is a Trill, kind of, a human with a Trill symbiont inside. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we be mad about the fact? So instead of being like a non-binary character, it's like a kind of masculine identified symbiont inside a cis woman, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, so I think that's the key, like as far as we can tell, because the character right now has like troubles with her memory or some shit like that. So I think that so the Trill symbiont and the human haven't like fully merged, and I'm thinking, my galaxy brain take here, if they do this smart with the setup, this was a weird setup that they have right now, but if they do it well with the setup, like once their minds have merged completely and they are one, as the Trill should be, then they will like become a non-binary in a sense.
Yeah, so maybe there'll be like a bit of like a gender fluid-y type of.
Yeah, because they've been pretty explicit with like LGBT stuff before in the Discovery show, so I don't see why they would have to be like, it's a Trill. It's not actually a non-binary person. It's actually a Trill. My guess is that they're doing this because the Trill in Deep Space Nine, don't remember her name, was definitely very much of a trans allegory.
Jadzia Dax.
Jadzia, yeah, very much a trans allegory. Like she was on the cover of trans magazines back in the day. Because like as a metaphor, as an allegory for transness. And I think what they're doing now is to sort of presenting that again, being like, hey, remember this? We did this allegory before. And then in some later episodes, they're going to be like, the personalities have merged, but you know, they don't have a gendered identity now that the merging is complete. So like the trans allegory is taken a step further. So I think this is presenting the trans allegory, and then they're going to like evolve it.
Yeah.
That's my theory. If they don't do that and they just do the thing about like it's a male worm in a woman's body, then it's a bad take. They might do that, but I don't think they will do that.
But so far, this character's gotten like 2 minutes of screen time, so
yeah, exactly.
Got to put what's it called? Hold our judgment for now.
Yeah.
Okay, the other day, you know who got in an argument with a Nazi about what makes someone a respectable historian, because the Nazi was trying to use some crackpot's work to prove Trotsky hated Gentiles. You know who said a historian is respectable if a lot of historians think they're respectable. Thoughts on that take?
Who is you know who?
What's it called? I
don't know who.
The V word. The person I'm not supposed to talk about anymore because everyone gets mad at me every time I drag him on Twitter.
Yeah, people get mad at me too. What's it called?
So,
what was the question? The idea that historians are respectable if other historians think they are.
Yeah, that like the sort of like quality or respectability of a historian is based on whether or not other people think they're respectable.
I mean, sort of, but isn't that the case with like all science?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't see what stands out about that. Like, yeah, like if a historian's work is like peer reviewed and respected by other historians who think it's good work, then they are respected.
Yeah, it's just kind of like the structure of academia, is it not?
Yeah, and like the structure of academia is pretty shit, but that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't differ that much from other academic subjects.
Is there anybody in political history who is much more radical / extreme than Peter Kropotkin or Max Stirner?
There are probably a lot of people who are way more like extreme in whatever directions, but probably none who are both extreme and popular at the same time.
I don't really know too much about Max Stirner, but okay.
Me neither.
A question for this stream popped up in my mind last weekend. How would a penal system work in an anarchist society? How would people who commit crimes be treated? Oh, I think I got asked at one point. Oh, yeah, I missed a question. Thoughts on the YouTuber non-compete? American Johnson's good people. I am friend. I don't
know them that well, so I don't know.
Okay.
They sound good though.
Yeah. All right. Question for the stream. Okay, so how would a penal system work in an anarchist society? How would people who commit crimes be treated? Good question. I feel like I'm getting a lot of anarchist questions, which is sort of unfair to you.
You don't know that, maybe.
Are you a secret anarchist? And I do like how one of the things I do like one thing that I've learned that is that behind the scenes, at least a handful of YouTubers and like people who are like on the left that I know have gone from being either democratic socialists or sort of more like, Marxist Leninist types, have completely turned into anarchists over this year. So it's like, oh boy. I'm not going to like out anybody, but I do know that like there's at least like one pretty prominent like left-wing YouTuber who has basically taken the anarchist pill this year.
What is the anarchist pill? Is that the black pill?
No, the black and red pill, I guess. I don't know, except though that's even worse. There's no good colored pills anymore.
There's no good colored pills. They've ruined all of it.
Mm-hmm.
The pink pill.
The anarchist is like you take the red pill or you take the blue pill. You take the red pill and you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and it's like nothing happened. Take the blue pill and you see how far down the rabbit hole goes. And the anarchist just grabs both of them and just swallows them both and be like, "All right, motherfucker, let's do this.
Let's party."
Yeah. So my like take on like prison systems and like justice in an anarchist society is, first of all, every time what you would consider a crime happened, first of all, many things that are considered crimes today are not crimes. Just putting that out there. Doing drugs should not be a crime, for example, which is like why most people are in prison. But like, so like for like and also a lot of them are like crimes of desperation, which hopefully proper anarchist society would somehow would work through by the fact that poverty would be the first and biggest project that anarchists would work on. But after that, or just acknowledging that crime of desperation is not so much a crime, and it probably is more of an invitation that somebody needs help than somebody needs to be punished horribly. So what you have left after that is like violent crimes and things like that. And in those situations, I am against, and this is super anarchisty, but like I'm against the idea of like one size fits all policies on things, which is like what people who like states really, really like, is to have like one rule that applies in all contexts. And I think that's...
there is the law, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. So in many times I think of each incident as a breach of the social contract between people, mutual respect, golden rule, that kind of thing. And the first priority should be trying to set that right through some form of mediated restitution. So basically, council people come together, the parties afflicted are there, and we try to figure out, okay, what happened, how can we make things right? If that breaks down in a meaningful way, or if it turns out that somebody is like truly unable to, or at least needs like significant work on them in order to, understand and process and not repeat the same thing, then I am down for something a little bit looser of like what you've kind of got going in Sweden. A prison system that's based on like not so much locking people away and turning them into criminals and desocializing them and turning them into even more unstable people, but more trying to plug them into a community and sort of rehabilitate, reteach the importance of being part of a community and why whatever things they did, which obviously, as I've ruled out so many other crimes, that it would be not that many. This would be very few people, sort of re-educate them in like why it's important to, be part of the social cohesion. And then there's obviously also people who are irreparably because of like, I don't know, some like mental illness, because of like some sort of physiological or psychological serious issue, like somebody with like severe paranoid schizophrenia or something that means that they have trouble distinguishing the difference between these things, like people who could make like a fairly applicable insanity plea in today's world. They should be treated like people who are suffering from severe mental illness, and that is about putting them in a situation where they can't harm themselves and others, and giving them the therapy and the things they need to become the most fully fledged person they can be, with the assistance they need for their disability. Like, I know that was a lot I said in a very short amount of time. What do you does any of that stand out as weird?
No, it all makes sense. I just like that you sort of like wrote half a book on the subject, but it's pretty good. Like I definitely agree with what you're saying. That like when there is no other option, like as you say, some sort of like isolated, like retraining of community is probably the best thing you can do. And in some cases, in terms of like people like Breivik, for example. Like who was a Christian terrorist in Norway who killed a bunch of people. Like Norway doesn't have like a life sentence thing, but they do have this sort of thing. There's like at the end of a sentence, a person will they will check like, are you still a danger to society? And if you are, then you don't get to be part of society anymore. And basically, it's like eternal. Like they will try to reform you until you're reformed. Yeah. And that's it.
Well, I sometimes get that question about like, well, what do you do with the people who are completely irredeemable? Like, don't you just give up on those people? And I was like, I kind of, even if there are people out there that we should give up on, I don't want to live in a world that gives up on people. And so exactly. To like, even like as you said, like the Anders Breivik situation, like the absolute fucking, this is you undersold. This is a man who murdered over 70 children.
Yes.
In a mass shooting because he hated Muslims. And the idea that, you know, the human in you wants this person to just go away forever. I do think that even in those situations, even if it is very likely that this is a person who will never truly be safe around other people ever again, we should still always be trying to.
Exactly. This is a very good answer and a very complicated topic.
Yeah, this feels like a Tristan Won't Shut Up video in the near future. I should write that down. Prisons. Anarcho-prisons. Okay.
The closest I ever got into discussing prisons in a video was when I talked about concentration camps. It was the closest thing I've ever got to talk about prisons in general.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next question is for you, and you already kind of answered most of it, but there's a little bit you can fill in. So in the Trump and fascism video, you mentioned paramilitaries as part of fascism, and that Trump doesn't have any. Given how Trump ordered the Proud Boys to stand down, do you think that still stands? I know he doesn't run them, but we do live in the internet age.
Yes. So I think a distinction here is the sort of point that I was making was that like it's not comparable to sort of like historical type of like paramilitary movement. Like even the Proud Boys, who have, I mean, certainly thousands of memberships, it's not really comparable to like the to what like the Nazis had or what the fascists had in Italy, where they had like literally hundreds of thousands of well-armed, well-trained, uniformed soldiers. And I think I think there's a distinction there. Like even when people talk about like lesser fascism in Spain, for example, even the second the Spanish Civil War broke out, the right wing there organized these sort of paramilitary organizations, or took ones that already existed and like drafted them into a more organized sort of military style unit. Instead, what I feel exists in America right now in terms of like right wing, like violence, are like more like individually oriented militia movements and cells rather than a sort of fascist movement. I still think that Donald Trump is definitely doing a lot of fascism, and I do also think that many of these movements are fascist movements, but they're not connected. Like Trump isn't leading them or telling them what to do, even though he sort of thinks that he can, and even though a lot of people think that he can. Like that's why people want him to say that they can stand down. But even if Trump did say to like stand down and disavow them, they shouldn't do any of this, they would still do it. And the difference there is if Adolf Hitler, for example, said that the SS shouldn't do something, then they would probably most likely stop doing it, which is also a big part of like why a lot of people within the Nazi Party were assassinated by other members of the Nazi Party, because they wouldn't do what the leader said. But Trump doesn't have that sort of total fascist control over his own. Over the movement that is now following him, because he doesn't have that total control that a lot of historical fascists need to have. Like he is not the Führer in the sense that right now people are following him, but he doesn't have control. Like if he is deposed, they will find like a new leader to follow. Like the movement is sort of leading itself. Yeah. Rather than him leading it.
Yeah, they're not like a paramilitary wing or a military wing of the Republican Party, like what happened in Germany or in Italy.
Exactly, and I think that is a almost academic difference in definition, but it is a very important one, I feel, because it discusses like where the decisions come from. Like Trump can make his own decisions, but the movement will also make its own, and they are sort of a two-pronged way of doing fascism, which is really bad.
Yeah, there's also like I think that there's also a danger of a bit of like an overreach in trying to build this metaphor with the rise of Hitler, and because what you're going to do is you're going to sort of lose the the differences, and like, because like what's most likely, like America's fascist fall, like breakdown is much less is not going to be like Germany's rise to fascism. It's not. It's just like how everybody, like the people who think that America having a civil war would be just like what happened under, just like what happened during like, you know, the last civil war. When like, if you want to understand what's happening in America and you want to make a comparison, we're using the, you know, fascism of the 1940s. What we should be looking at more is the breakdown of liberal, like the breakdown of society and the rise of far right ideologies that it has been in that's been going on in the Middle East broadly.
Yeah.
Like I think that we're going to learn more about the way that America would say break down in a civil war in like what happened in Syria than what happened in Germany in the 40s.
Yeah.
Like,
and that is exactly why in the video I talk about why it's more like useful to talk about like individual fascist actions, like because if people say that Donald Trump is a fascist, then people will start doing these sort of like historical comparisons that aren't really that useful for the current political climate. But we can talk about like Donald Trump and the movements, obviously, like doing specific things that can be characterized as like fitting within a sort of fascist framework. Mm-hmm. So like I personally think that Donald Trump is a fascist, like but I also believe things that I didn't really say in the video. I mean, I didn't lie in the video, but you know what I mean. Like there's more context to my own beliefs that I don't really have, that aren't really public, at least not yet. The point that I'm saying is that like I completely lost the plot of what I was saying.
No, like you can take like there's bits but like but like trying to say that this is going to happen the same way. Like I would say that the major thing, like if you want to know what's going to happen of like the American far right becoming resurgent, think about what happened with like movements like, for example, like trying to mobilize the far right conservative areas in the Middle East, and like when you think of like radical, sort of like radical Sufis. Sort of like the ideology behind many of like terrorist groups, you had different phases that it went through where they've like scattered versus coalesced. Like for example, when they coalesced around al-Baghdadi and ISIS became like this phenomenon for a while that existed in an area where like sort of the functions of the state broke down. That is like I could like if you think about an American Civil War happening, it's if the sort of chaos of like bunch of different like the sort of like decaying systems of America mean that the state can no longer function in all parts of which in the third geographically largest country on earth, which is actually like, if you think about it, the amount of government that needs to exist to keep that going is quite extensive. And if that breaks down, then you're going to have all of these different movements pick up and take over areas, and they might unify. Like you might see like Dominionist Christians and neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan start working with each other, but you might also just see them like this town, because the police just don't exist and the law just basically doesn't function here anymore, that the Ku Klux Klan just took over the town and they told all the people of color they had 24 hours to leave or they would kill them. And it's like, like that's fucking terrifying. And that's more, in America where the factions are not geographically linked, like it's not states that are against each other, and without like central organization through like a central fascist party, like what happened in Germany, that's what you're going to see. Yeah. And even in positive situations, like even if Trump loses, these groups have seen massive recruitment basically since Obama was elected. The Ku Klux Klan, I think, has had a 900% increase in membership since 2008. And I don't even know what it was like since Trump was elected. And you're going to, I say that if Biden becomes elected, then I think you're going to see a lot more instances of like kind of what you saw with the sort of radical conservative Muslims in like sort of the era between the rise of ISIS and the breakdown of Al Qaeda, where it's just going to be like random acts of stochastic terrorism all over the place.
Yeah.
And if America ever has like enough crises piled on top of each other that things start to collapse, that's when you're going to see something like, I could see a leader, not like Trump, but like they will always be looking for a leader to sort of rally behind, and it could change, and it'll change forms, and they'll go from being scattered terrorists to trying to be a united movement to scattering again. Like this is sort of a thing. I feel like I'm talking in circles.
No, you're making perfect sense, and like that's also why I'm talking about like individual fascist actions, because I feel like that's more useful, both to avoid like bad historical comparisons, but also to like more accurately talk about, because if you're talking about individual actions, then you can also pin those on individual movements and individual like sub ideologies and shit. Like it doesn't all revolve around Trump at that point, because it doesn't. Yeah,
because if you're looking for a Hitler, like thing is like part of how Hitler rose to power couldn't have happened without a proportional representation government, which America doesn't have. Like, because Hitler rose to power by basically brokering a coalition with basically like a group of Germans who just were like, can we like undo this democracy thing so we can go back to having an empire because I miss my pointy hat. But like, and so like the context is different enough that like it's not gonna happen the same way, and we're gonna be looking for secret Hitlers until while like vanilla ISIS takes over America.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question, but we did spend a lot of time on that answer.
Yeah.
It was good though. Interesting question.
Mm-hmm. Again, this is like, man, I should make video. I'm gonna do the vanilla ISIS video now.
That's very good.
Okay, the next thing we got here is, do you think that there is a tension between more technology-oriented leftists and more ecology-oriented leftists? I keep seeing arguments between, say, for example, like degrowth people and productivist people, and I can't tell why.
I haven't noticed that much of a like conflict of that specific nature, but
yeah, because like I would probably put myself in like very pro technology forward transhumanist thinking, and one of my closest working friends is Mexi, who I would probably put more on like the degrowth aspect of things, and she and I don't fight at all. And like I do think that like, okay, so I don't know why they're fighting, except for the fact that everybody likes to fight on the internet, despite the fact that they have the exact same goals.
Do you know those like endless series of memes where just like there'll be like two characters fighting each other, and there will be like another clip art cartoon character photoshopped in, just sharing them on, and there's like another cartoon character in the back doing something, and it's just like the left.
I love those.
I love that too. It's true. We do fight a lot. They're far too much.
I mean, there are like, for example, there are some parts that these two factions do have a stick towards, which is like, they're like, for example, economic productivity and post-scarcity. There is definitely an idea that a degrowth thinker would say that our thinking about things as like we need to eliminate labor and we need to like make these machines in order to focus on building an economy that is post-scarcity is us thinking like capitalists instead of thinking about like what's sustainable, while like the same person would say, well, no, it's not. And some of these fights, there's like sticking points about like nuclear power, which has been sort of muddied by environmentalist movements of the 1970s, which a lot of people today would say are a little outdated. but then there's also legitimate criticisms of nuclear power that
Yeah.
are not the ones that typically come up. But either way, like there are things there are points of debate, but I don't know about like where anything gets mean or nasty.
No, I think I think most people have the opinion of like they both look nice.
Yeah.
They both have valid options and criticisms.
Hesitant Hilda says Mia Mulder.
Yeah.
Woodborg Ninja says, is that Mia Mulder of Mia Mulder fame?
I'm not famous. I don't. Even big YouTubers aren't famous.
It's true.
I'm making weird videos on the internet, and somehow I don't know how it makes sure that my rent is paid.
Yeah.
And no one knows why. But it's definitely not fame.
Have you seen the ContraPoints video on voting? In it, she suggested people go and do canvassing as a way to get out the leftist bubble and see what concerns people have in your community. You did canvassing for the NDP. Do you recommend this? Any advice on canvassing for a candidate where your party won't win?
Canvassing where your party won't win. What?
So the whole question is, like, in Natalie's video, there was a suggestion that you should go and canvass just to like take the temperature and like see what people's concerns are outside of like your leftist bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And would we recommend? And I've done canvassing before.
Yeah, so have I.
And so the question is, do we agree with that recommendation that Natalie made? And then then there's like a second question of any advice for canvassing for a candidate where your party won't win.
Where your party won't win.
So the first question is, would we recommend canvassing? And my answer to that is, yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Meeting people that you don't like, what's it called? Meeting people that are outside of your bubble and figuring out what kind of things they care about is super important. Like, for example, when I canvassed for the NDP, a lot of the stuff I did was in public housing. And like, we talk a big game about caring about poverty and like people who are like struggling to get by, but like, you actually talk to people who are actually struggling to get by about what they care about, and you can see like there's a gap. Like they don't care about whether or not there's like enough theory or praxis or whatever issues we come up with on any given day. And there's not only a benefit to you of like learning like what is this mom who has this single mom with 3 kids and is working on Ontario Works money. What does she need? What does she need to? What is she looking for to get by? Versus like, also the other thing that helps is you can talk to them and you can say like, well, like this party that you're not giving that much thought to actually is trying to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, like Canada gets. We get undercut a lot by strategic voting because of first past the post. So that's a different story, but...
Yeah, this is an entirely different story. Yeah, the second part of that answer, where it's like where your party won't win, doesn't even apply to me because I have representational voting. So no matter where I canvass, if I convince one vote, that helps the party. Like I don't have to go to like a strategic area or anything. I can just go... Mm-hmm. Go wherever.
In a Canadian context, I would say that there is value in the sense that by canvassing, not only are you trying to get out the vote, but you are having conversations with people about what they care about. And what you do by canvassing is you are not only trying to connect with people in your area about the policies that your party cares about and showing, where they connect. But at the same time, you're also like collecting information about where, like how support is doing. And in many ways, like a lot of times, like ridings are long-term projects where you have to be like building inroads with communities and listening to them and changing your, and like, trying to change your priorities in order to match what people want. And so like when I did a lot of my canvassing, I was living in a riding that is sort of like has stark inequalities because it's like the place where Canada's Wall Street is, but at the same time, it's also the area where we have like a huge amount of public housing. And it's the geographically smallest seat in Canada, which means that it's very high population density. And the Liberals had a very deep hole. They still do. We had an election like last week in that riding, and the NDP was like destroyed by the Green Party and the Liberals, which was weird. It was a weird election overall. But the thing is, for a long time, Liberals have assumed that seat is a place where they can just stick somebody they want in cabinet because it's a safe Liberal seat. While the NDP have been working for years and through multiple elections to try and break down that monopoly, and it's cracking, and it's getting there.
It's a sign of a very healthy democracy where you need to do that.
How does canvassing work? Basically, you get a clipboard that has all of the addresses that you're supposed to go to, and you become versed on the policy positions of the party you're canvassing for. You knock on the door and you ask if X person's there, and then you say, hey, do you know there's an election coming up and that this person's running? And you'll have information about how they leaned beforehand. Oftentimes, you're actually talking to people who have showed interest in the party in the past. And you're trying to make sure that they'll commit to voting or something like that. And oftentimes they'll be like, well, I don't really like this guy, or I have this issue, or I care about this. And you'll be like, well, okay, well, let's have a conversation about that. And you sort of like write down sort of where their support level is at that time, and you write that down on the clipboard so that maybe, like, say if they care about one specific issue, you can write that down and write some support. And so in the next canvass, somebody who knows a lot about that issue might come back to talk to them. Like, that's a sort of, it's complicated. But that's sort of like what you do.
Yeah. I just sat on the square. Every Swedish election, they set up small, like, little cabins in city squares, and every political party gets like their own cabin, and people can come and be like, ask about the party.
Whoever gives away the best smoked haunch wins.
I mean, kinda, yeah. They give away cookies and shit. It's great.
I'm just imagining longhouses like in the middle of a busy city square.
It's kind of like that, like very small longhouses in the middle of a city square.
Vote for Jarl Ulfric. He will support. He supports Sweden's claim. Yeah, exactly. I just love my favorite Sweden jokes are always about the strange connection between what Sweden is like now and what Sweden was like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. Jarl Ulfric.
Okay. New Zealand put out a travel warning for citizens in the U.S., warning against potential of violent altercations in the U.S. You guys up north going to fortify borders? Our border has been closed since March, and it has the closed border between Canada and the U.S. has been extended 7 times now. It's now going until November 21st. So, yeah, like, what's it called? The border between Canada and America has been closed for probably longer than it has been in over a century. So.
Yeah. I live in Sweden. I'm far away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have your own Nazis to worry about.
Yeah.
Plus, like, what's it called? Your growing fascism to the south is in Warsaw, not in America.
Yeah. That's neighboring ass country. There's always been this sort of idea that Polish women come to Sweden with the ferry to get abortions, but
now it might be.
It's even fucking worse.
Now it seems like there'd probably be some pretty good activism in going to those ports and helping those Polish women get those abortions.
Yeah, there are a bunch of movements down, like on the down south where the ferries go. Unfortunately, I live too far up. There's a lot of Russians here, though, where I live, because I'm closer to Russia than any other place of Sweden. So, So there are some Russian women coming here sometimes, but I don't know. I think it is easier to get an abortion in Russia than it is in Poland. Although it's not like Sweden is still like hella easy when it comes to abortion, or easier at least.
Does the president really have the best advisors? Like, suppose a war breaks out in Panama and President Biden, fingers crossed, knock on wood, asks them to bring him an expert on Panamanian domestic politics. Will they actually get him the most knowledgeable person, or will they get him someone whose take on Panama conforms to the neoliberal worldview Biden has? Some stuff Mia said in her last video about advisors makes me think about this.
They will get the best advisors, but what they consider to be the best advisors will be people whose values do align with the neoliberal worldview. So they will do their best and they will fail, if that makes sense.
The next thing I got here is Machiavelli Mulder.
Yeah, I'm so bummed that I didn't see that joke. I published the video, a teaser for it, like the day it came out, and someone on Twitter was like, Machiavelli, and I was like, damn it, I could have used that in the video.
It's true.
It would be a very funny joke, but I didn't.
It's always lost opportunities. You know, Four Lions. Do you think someone should do a movie like that, but like a right-wing white nationalist version of that kind of thing, like a comedy farce about a botched attempt to kidnap a left-wing governor or something similar? I don't know Four Lions. Is that a movie?
I don't know that either.
Yeah, sorry.
What's it called? Four Lions?
Four Lions. Like
Four Lions. Oh, I know Four Lions. Oh, yes. Oh my god. I mean, they probably could be, but it would be spicy. I mean, Four Lions was also very spicy for a movie. I mean, you could do that, but it would be very. I mean, yeah, you could do it, but it would be spicy, much like the original. So, if you don't know Four Lions is a movie, and it's been so long since I've seen it. It's a comedy movie about four incompetent British terrorists who try to. They try their best to like commit an act of terror, but they can't do it because they're bad terrorists. Made in 2010. If you made that today, I don't think it would be as appreciated.
Yeah.
But you can make it. But again, it was very spicy.
Would either of you be opening to letting patrons audition to do voiceovers? You already did this in one of your videos.
Did I?
You did that. You had that one thing where you were getting people to send clips to you.
Yeah, I had like 50 different clips from people who I had to just squeeze in as much as possible. Yeah, I did that. I didn't really audition because everyone who sent in a voice clip got to be in it. So it wasn't really auditioning. I wouldn't let people audition as a Patreon award, though. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. Like if I need something to be voiced in a way where I kind of want it to be of video quality, sort of, like I kind of need to know what to expect. So I usually just ask people that I know, or people who I like know of.
Yeah, because like people like same thing. Like you want to get high audio quality, and also typically like sometimes you need a pretty quick turnaround. Yeah,
and that's not to say that like, because obviously anyone can have good audio quality. The only thing that I would kind of be heartbreaking on my end would be someone getting a Patreon reward to audition, and the audio quality wouldn't be good enough, and I would have to be like, I'm sorry, I can't have that. Like I would feel like I would feel bad for rejecting them because they paid in order to do that, and then I say no. Like I couldn't deal with that.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
That's also where I'm like a lot more comfortable doing sort of a public thing where like everyone can be part of it, and it's like 100 different voice clips, and quality doesn't matter, and everyone can be part. Like that's more inclusive, and I don't have to say no to people. I think that works out, and I think that's the like kinder for most people. And more fair. It's more fair and balanced.
Yep. Got a compliment on your turtleneck.
Thank you.
And then we got Mia Potatolder. Glorious
Love
patat.
Love potatoes.
All right. Sort of Vulture, maybe they didn't care that much. Okay. I don't. Okay. Is it good for progressive parties to have reactionary opposition parties they have to compete with? Some of the liberals I listen to. Oh, here we go. That's mistake number one. Liberals I listen to are getting excited about the idea of Texas going blue and the Southern strategy being non-viable going forward. But I'm not sure if the Democrats having uncontested dominance would actually be good in the long run. I mean, there is like okay, this is like there's two answers. You can go with like the small answer and the big answer. The small answer is that there's sort of a truism in politics, which is that the longer a single political party keeps ruling in uncompetitive elections, the more corrupt it gets. An example I'd point you to is this little country called Canada, where the Liberal Party has been running it for over 70% of its existence and is like literally has like been trying to sell to the Canadian people right now that it's unwoke to try and investigate the multiple crimes the Prime Minister has done. Including one of the crimes leading to the firing from cabinet the first Indigenous woman to be in cabinet. So, so like there's that angle to it that if you have uncompetitive elections, then you're gonna end up with corruption. That is sort of like a thing that happens. Does that opposition need to be reactionary? No, I would think not. I would imagine that if it was like, I'd be pretty happy if the NDP and the Liberals were the two political parties. I feel like that would be a much healthier political place to be in.
Yeah, same in Swedish politics. If the Swedish Democrats just didn't exist, I feel like that would be significantly more productive.
Yeah.
Like having a reactionary opposition, in my experience, just makes all the other parties also become more reactionary in order to like try to take votes away from the reactionaries.
But definitely in a system where you have political parties should probably always feel like they are in threat of losing, because otherwise you end up in either single-party dictatorships or countries that just drift towards more and more corruption. Because, a single political party ruling an area for too long, you look into that and there's almost always, like, tons of corruption.
Yeah. You gotta keep politicians on their toes.
Mm-hmm. In the future, do you think it'll become less common for superheroes to be depicted as working with cops?
Hopefully, I think there's already slight inclinations of this, like a little bit, but not a significant enough amount. It is too far gone. Like, because we have one comic company, and that is Marvel, and that's like what 80% of people know about because of the movies and shit.
Yeah, and Marvel tries to be #woke, and right now, I would imagine that if they had a police angle to their story, that they would be sort of like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't do that this time.
Yeah, maybe cool with that. At least, what's it called? Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like apparently they took like a year off or something with all the police shootings recently to just be like, okay, how do we do a cop show that's woke? How do we do this?
Yeah. Tristan, if shite goes to heck here in America, will you vouch for my asylum in Canada? Oh boy, I know that actually, like, this actually came up in the news that Ottawa is making preparations for political unrest in America. I don't know.
That's dark.
Yeah. Gotta say, as someone who has a whole bunch of like in-laws and family members in America, I'm probably gonna have to learn that system pretty intimately if I'm gonna try to get them in here. But also, it's complicated because of the fact that the country that we're gonna be accepting refugees from potentially soon is a country that has just completely unchecked spread of a deadly pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like a weird kind of quarantine system that's going to make things complicated. See, there's this common like reactionary talking point that always tries to say that the refugees and the immigrants are bringing a disease, but it's like this time it's actually going to happen. Because America is just more COVID than human at this point.
The biomass of the virus is more than human.
The USA is the Jair Bolsonaro of countries right now.
Oh my god.
Can you be a vibing doomer? This seems like a young person question, so Mia, you're gonna have to answer this one.
Can you be a vibing doomer? Yeah, I think you can vibe in the doom. Isn't that what like funky nihilism is?
I suppose so. I don't know. I'm in my 30s, so I can't answer this question by definition. I'm going to be 32 in 3 weeks and 4 days or something like that.
That's fun. I am. Yeah, I'm about like I'm close. I'm nearing 30. Like I'm turning 28 this spring, so I've completely given up hope in the sense that I have any sort of relation with young people. Like I don't know.
Understanding Zoomers is getting more and more complicated.
Yeah. I am old. It is not great. Hopefully we get to see the world become a better place though.
Yeah.
Before it's too late.
Before the darkness consumes us all.
I'm talking like the world is going to end in like 2 years. What?
I mean, no, we have at least 6. Okay.
We have at least 2 days.
Yes. We have at least until tomorrow night. I remain. That's plenty of time. We got plenty of time to make the world a better place before tomorrow night.
Plenty of time, yeah.
I remain convinced that if Trump loses tomorrow and survives long enough, that he'll run again in 2024. Oh,
I don't think so.
No, you don't think he'll grow to Cleveland?
No, I don't think he will because like he is. If he wins, he will be the oldest like president to be like sworn in as president, I think. So will Biden, by the way. I mean, Trump is already like very old for president. How old is Trump?
He was 69 when he was elected.
He's 74 years old right now.
Yeah.
He's 74. I don't see him like running for president at like 78 years old.
Yeah, that's true. I do see
he's already falling apart.
I do wonder what Trump's next. Like, if Trump actually if the loss is so obvious that Trump has to concede tomorrow, I don't know what his next act is. Some people say he'll start what's it called, OAN or something like that, but I don't know. I don't know what Trump's like. I don't know if Trump goes like, oh, I'm not fucking done yet with politicsing, and he like tries to get into media stuff, or if he's like so mad that he got rejected at the polls that he just like says like fuck y'all and like goes into like exile or something. Yeah. And just like plays golf for like the next 6 years he has left to live.
There's a part of me that like thinks that he's going to do some media shit, but I don't think he will because I don't think he wants to do politics anymore. I think he's bored of it. Mm-hmm. Like I think he has a power trip from it, and I think he wants to have the title of president, but I don't think he actually wants to do any work. So if he doesn't have the title of president, to me, I think he's just gonna fuck off and just like be very racist.
That's the thing he's even said on the campaign trail, is that if he loses, you'll never hear from him again.
Yeah, exactly. And God willing, inshallah.
Because in many ways, like seeing how he governs, he doesn't actually give that much of a shit about issues. He cares about fluffing his own ego and personal loyalty to him, and the ideas sort of can come or go, whatever. And I mean, I think he has some like serious like ideas about white supremacy and stuff like that, but like I feel like he doesn't hold those as strong as like say your average like Nazi does. Like I don't think he's like I don't think he's like a Richard Spencer or anything like that. So I think that like if he's just like, man, that sounds like a lot of work, I'm just gonna go be racist in Florida like all the other old people, and sure.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some sort of like successor to Trump in the terms of in like the idea of Trumpism as an ideology. But I don't think it's going. I don't think it's going to be Trump.
Yeah.
Like Trump is going to leave it, and hopefully, if Trumpism, like as a movement, doesn't get a follower, I hope that it just like fizzles out and dies.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if Trump eats shit in this election tomorrow,
Phrasing, I love it.
yeah, if it goes real bad for him, that because like what happens is after every election, the parties will have like a post-mortem to figure out what happened, and it'll probably end up being like their post-mortem in 2012, which was like probably should dial back the racism a little bit to get these conservative people of color to start voting for us.
Yeah,
I could see, honestly, this is going to be hilarious. Either way, I could see the winner of the 2024 primaries being like Jeb.
Yes. Do you think we will have a Jeb GOP candidate potentially?
You know, I actually have more hope for. I actually have more hope that Marco Rubio, who's sort of like the Pete Buttigieg of the Republican Party. Maybe there's my dark premonition, everybody. Buttigieg Rubio is going to be the election of 2024, and everyone's going to hate it. It's going to be the most cursed. It's going to be the most cursed but hilarious election, because that's one where like the state, it's not going to be like an end of the world election. They'll try to say exactly. It is, and so we'll just be like, yeah, it's going to suck either way. So we can just vibe and make fun of both of them, and it'll be great.
I love that. It's so bad.
Oh yeah, it's awful. Can Biden win? Can Biden win without late mail-in votes? I'm increasingly worried that he might have to. It depends.
No, the polling error from what I've seen says that even in-person voting should be fine.
Yeah.
Even despite the mail-in votes.
The fact that like there are states like New Mexico that have had something like 95% of the total votes they got in 2016 in early votes is like the thing is like people aren't talking about how it's like unprecedented, and exit polls of those people are saying that they're breaking like something like 75 to 80% for Biden. Like this is like I don't want to give anybody false hope, but there is like a non-zero chance that tomorrow night is a very short night and that it becomes extremely obvious that Biden's going to win. It's not like a done deal, but it's also not impossible. There is a very real possibility that tomorrow could be a complete blowout. There also is a chance that unfortunately, there's too much chaos.
There is. I love that too, because there is a small chance that, like as you say, by tomorrow we'll somehow just know the election results.
Yeah.
Like we're either going to know tomorrow evening that Biden has won, or it's going to be like up in the air for a long time, and then even then it's like a 90% in favor of Biden anyway.
Yeah.
If Trump wins, we will find out like in December or something like that.
Yeah, there might be like a ton, like there is the situation that we might end up with something like Biden looks like he's winning tomorrow night, but it's close enough that Trump might try to contest it in order to like draw things out, but as he draws it out, those mail-in votes come in, and it just even more solidifies the victory, and he eventually has to concede, but he'll just refuse and just quietly disappear.
I feel like the only way that Trump can like cheat the election is because voter suppression has already happened now, right? And even exit poll shows that like voter suppression has worked to an extent, but not well enough. I lost the plot fucking again.
He pissed off the brunch liberals so much that they're actually coming out in droves.
It turns out when you disrupt brunch, you done fucked up.
Yeah, the liberals seem to hate Donald Trump almost as much as they hate Bernie Sanders, and so they're
almost.
Almost.
Not quite, but almost.
Yeah, we're getting there. Okay. Do you ever feel resentful of the fact that American politics affects us, but we can't do anything about who's in charge there?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, we live in Roman Gaul.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good point. There's one video, and I don't remember who made it. It might have been Philosophy Tube or H Bomber Guy talking about democracy. I think it was Philosophy Tube, but I'm not sure. Talking about like how, the idea of democracy is that the people who are affected by the leadership should have a say in who is their leader. But because the world is so global and interconnected now, and because America has such a power complex and wants to dominate the world, and like culturally and economically, it is weird that people who are affected by that don't actually have a say in how that's run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of states in general seems to be a big mistake when it comes to how democracy should work.
Oh my! Sorry, can you just repeat that part about how the states in general failed? States in general are just not good ideas.
Yeah.
All right. You heard it here first, everybody.
I've talked about that before. How
you took the anarchy pill. Welcome to welcome. You have now actually become a bread tuber.
Damn it!
You have conquested bread.
No, I still don't have a label, despite what you all say. Maybe I have shown too much of my power level here.
What would you tell a child about Trump if they asked? In retrospect, I think I'm happy I didn't know how awful Bush was when I was 8.
What was the question? Can you repeat it?
Sure. So, like, what would you, if a kid, like a child, like an 8-year-old, asked you about who Trump is, what would you say right now?
I don't know. I would have I would have to make some wild historical comparisons. Like I would have to like oversimplify a significant amount.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to just I remember that I was teaching U.S. history when the election happened, and the professor who I was like working for, he had like he has a daughter, and I think she's like at the time I think she was probably like 11 or 12, maybe 13, so like pretty young. And they had her, like, this is the first election where she was going to stay up late to see the election because he wanted his, like, his tween daughter to see the first woman get elected president. And apparently, like, that was, like, a really tough few days afterwards to, like, figure out what do you say to her about... Anyway, I can imagine it's not an easy... what's it called? This is why being a parent is so fucking hard, okay? You gotta be like a philosopher king or whatever to figure out how to raise children in this time. Okay, do you think we'll know who won the election by the sunrise on Wednesday?
No.
No, I think this is going to be... At least it's going to be like a week or two. Or at least a few days.
I think a significant amount of states will be called, as they say, by Wednesday. Like, California is obviously going to vote Biden, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not even in dispute.
We're going to be thinking a lot about Pennsylvania and Florida.
Yeah, oh my god, Pennsylvania's gonna take forever.
I love this map that somebody said, that's someone pointed out, where it's just like, oh no, and it was this picture of an electoral map where Trump won every single state except for Pennsylvania.
Damn.
Yeah, including Delaware. It's like, damn, it's cold.
But yeah, like it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think isn't the reason why they're focusing so much on Pennsylvania is because like Trump needs Pennsylvania basically in order to get elected. Like Biden doesn't. Like Biden could get to 270 electoral votes in a myriad of ways, but Trump kind of needs to get Pennsylvania in order to do it.
In most simulations, I think like in like simulations of the election, in all sorts of different circumstances, the state that will decide who wins is Pennsylvania most often. Like I think like something like if Biden wins Pennsylvania, his chances of winning the election like go to almost 100%. And Trump's, if he wins Pennsylvania, because like I guess like it implies that like polling errors are going in other ways on other things, that it means that Trump's chances of winning go up significantly as well. It's imperfect, but like it's just like out of the states that look like they could flip, it's one of the heftier when it comes to like the electoral college and stuff. And with like the way that the polls are shaking out, there's usually like only a handful of states that come down to being like true swing states. And right now, let me just check the 538 thing. It's not.
Yeah, I just went over to.
Yeah, so like
North Carolina, Ohio, Georgia, Florida seems to be a bit of a swing state, but Pennsylvania seems to be pretty Biden.
Yeah, this whole thing, the thing about this election that's weird is that we've got tons of swing states, and that's where things are going to get weird. Because like normally there's only like 2 or 3 or 4, and in this one I think there's like 9. And so like it's like, oh fuck. Because, and the thing is, they're swing states, but they're not swing states in ways that people are like used to, because these are states that like what's happening is that Democrats are making inroads on a lot of states that typically are pretty heavily favored to the Republicans. So like the fact that it's actually pretty interesting that like states like North Carolina, Iowa, Florida, Texas, and Georgia are all like possibilities right now, because like that's like bananas.
Yeah, Georgia being a potential Biden is wild to me.
And it's not even, it's actually like a pretty good chance too. Because I think that exchange, that only happened like a few days ago, that like the polls started really diverging. So it could, like, what's it called? Like I said, I want to caution against being overly optimistic, but things could break in a way that like we are just like by sheer just doomer, like just by sheer like shock of the last 4 years, we could by tomorrow. Who knows? It's not impossible. All right, I have to run to the washroom real quick. So we're going to play Mia Entertain the Chat for a little bit while Tristan goes.
Oh my god, what am I even gonna do?
All right, I'll be right back.
Is that my face? I have taken over the entire screen. Hello, welcome to my bread soup lighting home. My hair is a mess today, and I don't know why. Probably because the heat is super weird. Do a flip? I won't do a flip. Hello, chat. How's everyone doing? It is 7:30 p.m., so I am a bit tired because I am in Sweden, whereas Tristan is, I was like in the middle of the day or something. There we go. Some dabs. I never talk to chat, no comment check. I never do that. I never do. I've never done that. Another Mia stream. Listen, I do this all the time. Let's see if let's grab some random questions if I can find one. By the way, we talked a lot about like civil unrest and civil wars and shit. I can suggest a podcast called It Could Happen Here that Tristan tipped me off of. It's very, very good, and that talks about like how political violence could work, how it could be triggered by both like the left and the right, and how that would sort of like pan out. Så mycket välfärd att älgarna gråter. Hell yes. Tack. Min tröja är fin. Tack så väldigt mycket. You saw that. See, I do read chat. Have I been getting enough sleep? No. Actually, I've been having a weird thing the last couple of nights. This has nothing to do with politics. Where whenever I go to bed, I feel a sense of dread, and I don't know why. like I feel like I'm being watched, and that's very unnerving.
That's
So
because
if
hundreds of people are watching you right now.
if any of my simps have found out where I live and is like stalking me through the window, I'm gonna implode.
Whoa. What
Also,
did I walk in on?
we're talking about me. Someone is asking what I think about Nooshi Dadgostar, the Left Party's new leader. I don't know her that well, although she tweets good. Do I think democracy will survive? Yes, but not as it is right now.
Okay. Good stuff. Thank you for taking the lightning round.
Always send from a safe distance, everyone. It's true.
Yeah. I have, I don't know if this has happened. This maybe happened to you in Sweden. But I've had like random people. You had this happen at Pride, I think, once you said. Where you had like random people come up and be like, hey, I know you from the thing. And you're like,
yeah.
Oh no. What have I done?
I haven't had that from YouTube, but I've had that from like activism and modeling. But I haven't had that from YouTube yet. So far as I know, no one's actually recognized me from doing YouTube. Although I only have like 30 something thousand fans, and like 80% of them are in North America, which I've only been in once. So I don't think it's gonna be very hard.
It's happened to me 4 or 5 times. The most awkward one was when I was on the subway going to work, and I was just about to get off the subway. And so I had altogether of like 4 seconds to say thank you.
It's just so stressing, like, I gotta go though, but yeah, thank you, bye.
I have a job I have to go be really bad at. I was so awful at my last job.
Same.
I'm glad I got to be a weird internet person because I could not function in the world of people with real jobs. I was just always so bad at it.
Yeah. I feel like whenever you talk to YouTubers and you get a glimpse into what they used to do before YouTube, it's always like misery. Like, don't like it. Although no one likes their job, do they?
I worked in the nonprofit sector, so that was kind of nice. I worked for basically like Canada's equivalent of the ACLU, but I was in charge of like media relations and like communications, and basically that meant is I was the person who had to watch the telephone line that people who have things to say about civil liberties would call in about. And sometimes the job had like they took strong political stances that I was like not so on board with, and I was like, because they're very much like free speech absolutists and stuff like that, and so sometimes I was like, yeah, freedom, free speech,
freedom, yeah, we like freedom.
But for the most part, what happened is I had to tell extremely busy people who are trying to do like court cases and things like that some person from a newspaper wanted to interview them for about a subject. And so my job was basically constantly interrupting very busy people and asking them if they wanted to go on the news.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
Someone's asking if it's okay to greet us or if they should ignore us if they meet us in real life. If you see me in real life, like in the wild, please say hi, because I will brag about that forever. If one day I become like super famous, I get like 1 million subscribers and I get interrupted every time I go to the grocery store, maybe I'll ask people to quit, but right now, hell yes, I need that ego boost.
Nothing will make you feel cooler. Where things get complicated is like just like you might be like saying hi, great, photo, great. Are we going to hang out for several hours and are we going to be best friends?
No.
Because like sometimes, you know, like when you're out, I mean, back in the olden times when we used to go outside, we might be with friends or we might be doing something. I think I talked to one of my boss before I left that job, actually, because he's kind of famous in his own way. I was always just like, well, how do you handle like people doing that? And he's just like, oh, it's the worst. Like, especially if you're like having an argument with somebody or something like that, and then someone comes up or someone notices you.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, like stopping and saying hi to me seems great. But yeah, like I'm not gonna I'm not going to hang out and play board games all day.
Yeah, I've done meetups though where I will play board games, but that's in a specific context. And also,
remember meetups? Remember when that was a thing that people did?
Yep.
Holy shit!
The only thing I'll say is don't do that at people's like don't hunt for people.
Hunt for people. Oh God.
Don't what's it called? If it's like one time, there was one time where I ran into somebody on the street who recognized me, and I was a little nervous because it was like a block from my apartment. I think I'm fine, but I think it was fine, but it's still like sometimes. I'm giving mixed messages here because it's not a consistent emotion to have. So I'll just move on. What do you think about Chris Hedges?
Who?
Chris Hedges. He's kind of like the progressive guy that they get on MSNBC.
I don't know who that is.
Occasionally has good takes, but more often than not, he has bad takes.
Chris Hedges. Oh, I've seen this guy, but I haven't actually listened to anything that he said. Yeah, I don't know this guy.
Hey, I don't have strong emotions about him. Oftentimes I see him because somebody quote tweeted a dumb thing he said, so I think he was kind of like an Elizabeth Warren-y type progressive.
That tracks. Yeah, he looks the type.
All right. Do you think Trump could tank future GOP candidates out of spite? Like, suppose the party tries to distance themselves from Trump if and when he loses, and then he tells his followers not to vote in 2024 because he feels slighted. I could see him doing stuff like that. More often, I think he's going to be pushing candidates who he likes. And
but what if this is the long play? What if Trump is putting humanity on the golden path?
Oh God!
Like he's amassing these followers, and now after he loses, he can just like tank conservatism globally forever by splintering his own party.
He's going to, what's it called? After he loses the election, he's going to join with the worm.
The worm being Mike Pence, I'm assuming.
Yes.
They will become one two-headed beast roaming across the Nevada desert.
Thing is, he doesn't think that far ahead. So yeah, I feel like he could end up really hurting conservative candidates just because he feels personally slighted. That feels like a thing he would do.
Yeah, he might just accidentally do it. Stumble into the golden path.
Yeah. Okay. Next question we got here is: when the TERFs are eventually defeated, who's the next feminist group that actual feminists will have to face? Swerfs, kink shamers, or something completely different?
I think Swerfs.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big fight.
Yeah, here in Sweden, the TERF feminist groups and Swerf feminist group, they are one and the same. There is no different at all. So hopefully we can get rid of them both in one fell stroke. It is also mainstream feminism. They are mainstream feminism, TERF feminism, and Swerf feminism. That is what feminism is like here.
Oof, I don't like
which
that.
Which is why I don't go to feminist meetings anymore.
I could understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. Corbyn, Boris, or even Starmer, nothing really changes here. Maybe they'll be few schools or hospitals built, but nothing really changes. How privileged do you have to be to say that?
That nothing really changes?
It doesn't matter whether you vote for Labour or this is Boris and Starmer and Corbyn. So this is British, obviously.
Yeah, you can basically take my entire video that I made on Trump and just apply it on the UK, except that there is less fear of an illegal coup. Mm-hmm. Just because the UK also has the exact same problem with first past the post. If you can get rid of that, you're gonna solve 80% of all the issues you're facing.
Now I will say, that there is nobody in UK politics doing more to make sure that that Boris Johnson maintains leadership of the country than Keir Starmer.
God, Keir Starmer.
Because like he's literally taking the most popular leader that the Labour Party's had in decades and kicking him out of the party because he said Palestinian human rights are a thing.
Yeah, literally one of the best leaders of the opposition since Thatcher, because of how you measure like a leader of the opposition or something. Like he is, like he worked against the government and like did his own party even though he was in minority, better than anyone has ever done since Thatcher did it. Because Thatcher did it very well, even if she was a bad, even if she was a bad. And he like grew the Labour Party like membership by like hundreds of thousands more than anyone else before. Yeah. But yeah, Corbynism doesn't work though, apparently, because reasons.
Yeah, so if there's anybody who's trying to maintain Tory government, it's Keir Starmer right now.
Oh yeah.
Because Boris Johnson's trying to destroy his political career like at every turn, but Keir Starmer is like doing his absolute best work to try and keep them relevant.
It won't let them. Oh, that's very good.
What makes a scientist reputable, though? Surely they will have to have coherent arguments to actually be reputable.
Yeah, but that's usually what makes other historians respect them.
Yeah, the thing of like the reputation of a scientist or any academic is based on their publishing. Like they publish stuff, and the more times that their work is cited, the more prestigious the journal that they publish in. All that stuff sort of builds over time a repertoire that sort of gives your opinions and your takes more credence. It shouldn't, because then you end up with weird fuckers like Niall Ferguson. But that is how it works.
Yeah.
It's
not perfect, but
does the process of manufacturing consent make every modern election illegitimate?
Almost.
Yeah.
Not really, because there is still, we are still being affected. Like they are affecting us, but we are still being affected, and we can work to break that, but a lot of the time we don't.
Yeah, it's less relevant than it used to be, because like there was this sort of like, it was almost axiomatic in the past that the party that had the most amount of money would win the election, and the last few times that's not been the case. So something broke that sort of manufacturing consent sort of. If I were to delve into my own research, manufacturing consent for the most part implies a much more unified media ecosystem than we have now. Manufacturing consent was written in the 80s, in the time when like there was news, there was like broadcast and cable, and that was it. While like anybody under the age of like 50 doesn't even watch TV anymore. So like things are starting to what's it called? The sort of like manufacturing consent narrative is starting to crack because mass media is splintering pretty hard.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's splitting into people who are like saying, "Hey, all Democrats are satanic pedophiles that want the adrenochromes." So I'm not saying it's necessarily a good thing. It's just a thing that's happening.
Yeah. I'm sorry for being a bit distracted. My roommate's cat is like trying to break down my bedroom door, so maybe I'll show her off in a bit.
When Kitten wants in a room, they can be insistent.
Yeah.
Do you think Obama could have beat Bush in 2004?
In 2004, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Bush only lost in 2004 because fucking what's his face was such a horrible candidate. John Kerry.
Yeah.
Again, they intentionally sidelined the progressive candidate to push for the like right-wing centristy character, and he ate shit because that's not what people wanted.
Yeah.
Mulderist question: are potatoes, plants, and maps go change the means of revolutionary change?
Yes. Maybe not map go change, because map go change is usually actually bad.
That's true.
It is funny for the meme, but it is actually bad.
Hey, look, here is a cat. This is Romeo. Hello.
Romeo. We haven't seen Romeo in a while.
No. He's been a bit more clingy lately because Kelly has a lot of meetings, so he used to hang out in her office, and now he can't, so he now hangs out with me.
I can see if I can get other cat to hang out.
Other
at the
cat?
same time.
They can have a cat party?
Yeah, I'll be back in like
already?
a short sec. Apparently I didn't open the door when the queen desired it, and now she's cranky, so she doesn't want to.
Oh yeah, that's also very cat-like.
I didn't obey the command within 2 minutes, and now I am banished from her love.
Oh no. Okay. The next question we have. All right, let's see. Mia said that she's not an atheist, and I was wondering if she would feel comfortable sharing how she defines herself religiously.
Yeah, I don't really define myself that much religiously. I've like dabbled in various forms of like witchery. For a while, I've dabbled a little bit in like various Buddhist traditions. I'm very much like a basic white girl when it comes to like faith. When it's like, I don't know, but there's something. Something's up, I'm sure. So I don't have a sort of defined set of rules, but I vibe with the spirits, and the spirits vibe with me.
What's it called? Or depending on the day, if you're mad, it's the Vanir and the Aesir against the Frost Giants.
Yes, very much so. Like, there's definitely some like neo-paganism going on, especially when I eat cheese, and my body like implodes. Then I start invoking the Aesir and the Vanir to help me, because I need it.
Oh boy. What about ideologically driven criminals in anarchist societies? Material, medical, social, and psychological variables can be sorted, but ideologically often just justifies regardless of the variable. Like in Three Arrows is how societies turn cruel. I would hope that in an anarchist sort of situation that ideologues like that would have extreme limits on their ability to do things. But again, if their ideology drives them to do things that make them a danger to other people, then we'll just keep reassessing and being like, oh, still buying into that you're going to bring back the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, we'll just we'll come back next month and see how you're feeling then. Until you as a European can be considered yourself safe around other people's land, then.
Listen, it's a valid point.
Yeah. What is this person's problem? They keep trying to remake the Holy Roman Empire. Okay. Who's more?
I feel like we need to impose limits on Paradox gamers in a properly anarchist society.
Mm-hmm. They're definitely sus.
Very sus.
Okay, who's more progressive, Liz Warren now or Tony Blair in 1997?
Oh, I think Liz Warren now.
Yeah, probably. On most things. I mean, Liz Warren was not super great on healthcare, was better than most Americans, but for like the British context would not be that great.
That's true. That's smart. That's good. Just true.
Yeah. Should it be illegal to make animated child porn? I I would like. Okay, so this
What
question.
a whammy of a question. That hit.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I always say yes because what it does is it creates a culture of normalizing child abuse. Even if it isn't child abuse itself, it is like contributing to the normalization of child abuse. It's like what's it called? Making a media that is like dehumanizing or like oh, I don't know. This is a question that is extremely online and comes up every so often.
It does sometimes come up, and I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. It's because we live in a society. Yeah, I have. I don't know. I feel like I would have to look at some studies to be like what it is like psychological studies and shit. But I wouldn't know. But I definitely agree with your reasoning. So yeah.
For Mia, is Trumpism the first instance of decentralized fascism?
No, there have been other instances of decentralized fascism.
Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda, early instances of ISIS. Like some elements early on in the Spanish Civil War. There have been some instances in Portugal too, I think. So like it has happened before. So like it is still fascism, but it's just a very different type of fascism. Like when people talk about fascism, generally they most often mean a sort of like centralized, like one ideology, one state, one military unit type of fascism, a la sort of like Nazi Germany and fascist Italy and the like. But there have definitely been other cases too, but they have been less successful, usually, with the exception being a sort of the Spanish Civil War, which was kind of like a mix of both, a sort of like the military is doing its thing, and then also a bunch of right-wing paramilitary groups in addition to that.
Sort of how it goes.
Yeah.
Just like we kind of live in a day because probably of World War II that like we're probably not going to have like the party that is fascist that says it's fascist with a fascist paramilitary that is an official wing of the party pushing to power. I feel like you have to like at least have like 1 degree of separation now in order to have deniability. Okay. Yep. The next question here is, how do you feel about having 150 Supreme Court justices so none of them dying or retiring drastically change the ideological bent of the court? I have another proposition. 330 million Supreme Court justices. Everybody in America gets to be a Supreme Court justice. Solved. Heck, why stop with America? Why not have 7 billion Supreme Court justices?
I'm just surprised that like America has what does America have? 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Sweden has 16, and we have like almost nothing in compared to the population. And I feel like it should be, if you're gonna have a Supreme Court, it should at least be somewhat proportional to the population.
There should be so many of them that at the very least, there should be so many Supreme Court justices that every single individual one isn't a celebrity.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Like it should just be the Supreme Court, not just like the individuals.
The future of human rights shouldn't be like dependent on one person not dying of cancer. That's my and yeah, if it's 150, sure. If it's 150 million, I'm down with that too.
150 million, half of Americans are Supreme Court justices.
Yep.
The other half gets to vote.
Yep.
No, I love it. Half of America randomly gets a lottery ticket that says you get to pick a friend to be Supreme Court justice.
Nice.
And that's it.
I approve. Okay, so it is 2-ish.
Oh shit! Time. Oh damn.
Yeah. So I think it's time for us to. I was going to say, I think Rockatansky changed her name on Twitch. Now, is she the Possum Queen?
I think so.
All right. So therefore, I think we're going to raid the Possum Queen. But before we do that, you should tell everybody on the internet how they can consume Mia content.
Yes. Hello. You can consume Mia Mulder content at youtube.com/Mia Mulder. No, youtube.com/c/Mia Mulder. You can also go to twitter.com/potatopolitics or on Twitch, on twitch.tv/Mia Mulder. Or on watchnebula.com/Mia Mulder.
Yeah. Change of plans also. I found out that Rakatansky's away from her desk, so we're going to go raid Lumiru instead.
Yeah.
Lumi's always good value. Y'all have a good time. And everybody, I'll see y'all tomorrow night. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And yeah, practice self-care because it sucks right now.